What is going on, guys? Got a Binding of Isaac gameplay commentary for you today, and today is going to be a little talking about the game and maybe some topics. This is just like an improvised video, so sorry if the commentary is a little bit random. Like last time as well, I ended up ranting on about the Sega Mega Drive, and that might happen again. Not about the Sega Mega Drive, but just ranting on about random stuff. But I wanted to take this this gameplay specifically to talk a little bit about the game. So if you didn't know, Binding of Isaac is a indie game, as I have said in my previous Binding of Isaac video, and it's an indie game, and it's kind of is very cheap. It's around about, yeah, I'd say about I think it's about £2 or £3 for the main game to actually buy, and then I think it's about £1 or something for the DLC. So it's really cheap, and it's really hard to explain this game without people actually playing it. But it's one of those games where you can just watch it on YouTube, and you can watch the whole game without even playing it. For example, another game like this is Minecraft. I remember watching so many just Minecraft videos of people's playthroughs and people's worlds, and I've actually I only ever had the game once and I didn't even like it, but I loved watching it on YouTube. It's just one of those games that you get really addicted to watching, because it's a game heavily based on random generators, and it's all about luck, and there's a lot of skill involved, but you can kind of wing it by just on luck alone sometimes. And if the luck doesn't go your way, no matter how good of a player you are, you still are going to struggle in certain areas. So it's a top-down twin-stick shooter, and a twin-stick is basically you move. So you've got the WASD keys is to move around, and then you've got the arrow keys to shoot in all the different directions. So imagine it in an arcade as like a twin-stick shooter. That's where the phrase comes from, and there's not many of these around, and it was a very fresh thing that came into the indie game market, made by Edmund Macmillan, and I think it was Team Meat, which are the two guys that created Super Meat Boy and then a few other indie games. And I actually watched a movie called The Indie Game, and it's a movie about how hard it is actually to make an indie game, to make a whole game run fluently and run smoothly with only just 2 or 3 people, or even sometimes one person making the game. And there's and they can still be just as successful as these massive blockbuster games that have, you know, millions of pounds put into them, just like Call of Duty. And this game has achieved a cult status, and it's a very respected game, and it's got a very good community, and there's a lot of YouTubers that have played this game and definitely had some fun with this game. And it's just because of the pure randomness, it makes such fresh videos. I mean, Northern Lion, who I quite like watching, he's a YouTube gamer. You should definitely check him out. It's called Northern Lion, and he uploads tons of games, but his most successful series is The Binding of Isaac, and he's made over 400 runs, and a run is basically from the start of the game. And the game, you only get 1 life unless you get the power-up 1-up, but you only get 1 life, and you've got to make it all the way down these floors to beat Mum, and then if you beat Mum, there's further bosses that you can beat after that. So in the DLC you can get, I think it's Blue Baby and Isaac, and also you can go and fight the devil as well after Mum. But Mum is the main boss that came out with the main game, and the storylines, like, you are Isaac, and you are like a little boy, and his mum cast him down to hell because of, not hell, but somewhere, because he was doing something wrong. I can't even remember what it was, something to do with religion or something like that, and she sends him down, and you've got to get your revenge by taking her down, because she's evil, and she is actually the final boss in the game, in the original game. So yeah, that's the kind of story, and the way you shoot is they are your tiers that you shoot, and you can upgrade tiers in different ways. So you've got range, so that's how far you can shoot. You've got damage, which is the actual damage, fire rate, and there's also different tier effects and different tier colours to show the damage. So say I have blue tiers now, that's the lowest you can get really for damage wise, but you'll see that my tiers change colour throughout the game. That's because I get tier upgrades, and that helps me get more damage, and you can get so many upgrades. You can get health upgrades, you can get etc etc. Well, basically the game is made up of, I think it's 6 floors to get to Mum, and you go down each floor, and each floor consists of a randomly generated enemy rooms, which are all in this square format, as you can see now, and they all have a random selection of enemies, and depending what kind of floor you're on, so I'm on the basement 2, you can get different enemies, and the enemies generally go progressively harder as the game goes on. So that's why you have to pick up these upgrades in the room with the crown on. As you can see, there's this little mini-map at the top, and that mini-map is basically the whole floor. So there's a boss room, which is the skull, the money room, which is the where you can spend money to buy items. The crown is your treasure room, where you'll get your upgrades, so you need a key to open that, apart from on the first floor, because the upgrades are free. And then you've got some other random rooms, such as the self-sacrifice room and also the challenge rooms. And the self-sacrifice room is a room where you damage yourself by walking over spikes, and there's like a gambling chance that you can get items from walking over the spikes, and it's very risky, but you can get items from it. And the challenge room is where you will enter, and there will be either a golden chest or a grey chest, I believe, and once you open the chest, it's your choice to open it or not. You have to fight enemies to actually get out and get your reward for free. So that's, again, it's kind of got that gambling aspect to it. And there's a lot of gambling in Isaac, and there's slot machines, there's arcades, and there's things like that. So as you can see, I've beaten my first boss, and there's a hole in the ground, and that's for me to progress downwards towards the floors, and it gets harder. But these are things that you've seen on the ground. These are pills, and I got my boss item, which you get after beating a boss, and I got, I think it was called the coin purse, and it dropped, or Mum's purse, and it drops a load of pills, and I think I got some speed up, some damage up, some other things. And then if you do a boss fight well, or a floor very well without taking much damage, you can go to a devil room, and that will open after the boss room. And there's usually it's kind of like a sacrifice room, where you will sacrifice some of your hearts, and you will in return get an upgrade. So as you can see, I've only got 1 solid heart at the moment. And if you're wondering what these grey hearts are, they are spirit hearts, and spirit hearts are not the same, because heart slots stay and spirit heart slots don't, and also red heart drops drop much more frequently, so it's a lot easier to sustain. So I kind of had this risk element where if I lost my spirit hearts, I could only have 1 heart to replenish, and that was kind of risky. But this room here I'm entering is actually I think it's called a library, and in the library there's 2 books you can choose, and I chose the Book of Shadows, and that fits in a spacebar item slot. And the spacebar item slot is when you press a spacebar, it gives you a power up, and this specific one gives you a shield for a certain amount of time to reduce the amount of damage you take. And I also have a pill which I'm saving, which is a telepill, which teleports me to a random location. Again, this game is quite heavily based on randomness and gambling and all sorts of aspects like that. And as you can see, you will get upgrades, and I've got various upgrades now, and I have this random thing on where my range and my speed changes. So I'm not sure whether that was a glitch, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I think I had picked up an item, I think it was called the Liberty Cap, which constantly changed my range, my speed, my size, and things like that, because that's changing throughout the game. So basically, you have to fight a boss at the end of each round, and the bosses do get harder, and they are usually the ones that will take off the most health, and it can be a challenge later on in the game just getting to the boss, because the enemies are so hard that you need to find the right path, and you need to find it fast. and yeah, the bosses do get a lot harder, and eventually you come to the hardest boss in the game, which is, I think it's Isaac or Blue Baby, I'm not sure which one, but I know that they are very hard, and that's in an area called the chest, which I am far off reaching, I have to say that. By the way, these are my least favourite enemies in the game. These are greed heads, and I absolutely hate them. Because of the, I think it's because of the Liberty Cap, or because of my arrow effect, I have a very short range, and I don't want to come close to them. They take a lot of damage, these heads, and they also, whenever you get hit, they take money off you. So it's not very nice, really. But now that I've talked a little bit about the game, maybe talk something a little bit more personal. So I know these Isaac videos are kind of like topic videos, and I'm actually making this video before I've submitted my first Isaac video, so if you haven't had a chance to send me topics yet, but definitely do send me your topics. And this topic is, I don't mind talking about it, it's just that it kind of brings back some bad times, but nothing too deep. I'm not going to really depress you guys. It's about bullying, and I was a victim of bullying, and bullying it can happen in a range of ways. It can be verbal, it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be online, it can be in person, things like that. But basically it usually happens because of there's so many reasons why bullying happens, and to be honest, I'm not complaining that much, because I've not had it that bad in terms of some people that got bullied have, because some people that get bullied commit things like suicide over it, and I wasn't even close to that. But I just wanted to talk to you about it, and maybe how you can reduce the chances of it happening, and kind of get over it, or not panic or something like that. But people keep adding me on Steam, by the way. I probably need to trade them after this video. But basically, yeah, so the reason I am bullied is because I am small. I am under the average height, which makes me different and obviously a target for bullying. And there's various targets for bullying. It could be anything. It could be a background, it could be a race, it could be a size, it could be literally, it can be limitless. But usually people bully because they have like problems at home, or they're insecure, or they're jealous. There's so many reasons, and I couldn't even think of them all, and I don't even know in my case why these bullies were doing what they're doing. But don't worry, this was not severe bullying, it's just it got me down basically. So yeah, I am small, and obviously I got bullied, and I got bullied by somebody in a younger year than me. And because I was smaller, they thought it was probably acceptable to do it or something. And yeah, so basically there's this kid, and it just all started one day, and I was riding home on a bike, and for some reason he just said, "Nice bike, mate," and I was like, okay, whatever. And then every time he would just keep saying, "Nice bike, mate," and I just told him one day just to shut up. And then basically he was just like, "No, you shut up, you midget." And then it just got progressively worse from there. And basically this guy, I have no idea what was wrong with him, or why he was just randomly decided to do it. But I then later found out that through one of my siblings who was in the same year as this kid, that he actually got bullied himself. And one of the reasons for bullying is actually because they're getting bullied themselves, and he was getting bullied himself, and he probably was trying to take out his anger on me for some reason. Anyway, he would just, whenever he saw me, he would call me names, and he still does it to this day. Every day every time I see him, he will just poke a little name at me. But back in the day, it really affected me, and I got really pissed off at this guy, because bullying someone in an older year than you is just kind of unheard of. I think it was just because I was small, basically. And I was really pissed off at this guy, and there were so many times I came close to just hitting this guy, or him hitting me. and it could have got really messy, but it didn't actually get that messy. It was fine. But basically, yeah, he would just get me down, calling me names and all this time, and I really didn't know what to do. I didn't tell any of my friends, I didn't tell any teachers, I didn't tell any parents, because it wasn't that severe, and I didn't feel it was severe enough. But yeah, he had no right to do this, and I decided to just find a point in him which was different, and I called him names as well every time I saw him, and that's where some of the aggression came from, of him starting to hate me, because he was getting bullied himself, and then I was retaliating. He really didn't like that, and I think this kid, I don't know whether he's messed up in the head or he's just emotionally traumatized, but he is very, very angry, and there was just some times where I thought that this kid was like broken in the head or something like that. And what he did one day is he has this friend, some really scummy friend, and when I say scummy, I literally mean dirt of the earth, but whatever. This kid would be wearing like these horrible tracksuit bottoms and crappy Gola pants and whatever, but yeah, and then he also started joining in on the name calling, and that's when it got a little bit more severe, when he started doing it, and he didn't even know me, and he was only doing it because his friend was doing it. He had no reason to, and there's nothing that I did to aggravate him. And it was kind of like a 2-on-1 thing, and every time I saw them, I kind of just had to suck it up. And so, like, say in the corridor, I was on my own or something, I kind of just had to, whether it was luck or not, whether they decided to do anything. But there was this one time where I was just so angry at this kid. He was just like, if you say one more thing, I'm just going to smack you in the face. And he was like, do it. So for some reason he found out where I lived, and this is probably where it gets most severe, and I was just really angry at him. And because I ride home on a bike, he found out where I lived, and he waited outside my house with his friend, and he has done this about 10 times to me over my life. He stopped doing it now. I control him now, basically. But yeah, he would wait outside the house with his friend, and this was kind of threatening because they were both bigger than me and they were both hanging around, and I was on a bike and I couldn't exactly get away, and once I'd stopped, you can't really pick up fast on a bike anyway. So the first time I kind of didn't improvise. I just I was still calling him names at this time, and he was still calling me names at this time. But the first time that they were waiting outside my house, I just rode down my drive normally, but they obviously, one of the guys, he actually tried to push me off my bike, and he tried to push me off my bike multiple times, and yeah, so there'd be instances. The first instance, he actually nearly got me off my bike, and I was kind of like scared at this point. I really didn't know what to do, and he did it for about 2 weeks consecutively, just waiting outside my house. And I decided that this thing wasn't going to go away, that he was always going to take his anger out on me. He still does it to this day. Every time he sees me, he just calls me a name. But I realised that the best way to deal with this is just ignore him, because he's craving this attention that he probably doesn't get, I don't know, at home, whatever, at school, whatever. And he was just always gonna do this, and I couldn't stop that. So I decided to just start ignoring him, and ignoring him was the most effective method. And it's working to this day, and I would just ignore him. I wouldn't say anything. Just from that day on, I've not said anything since, because there's no point. And after I started ignoring him, he would still he kind of got in a point where he wanted me to say something. He wanted me to retaliate, and by not giving it him, he actually got more stressed out and carried on waiting outside my house and threatening me in the corridor and things like that. But basically, I started to improvise, and when he would wait outside my house, I actually have a back garden, and I would take a different route and go around the back garden. And then sooner or later, he soon got fed up of waiting 45 minutes outside my house, waiting for me to show up, and that kind of got rid of him on that aspect. But as soon as I stopped ignoring him, he would still call me names, but it's never ever got as serious as it was, and it never did come to a fight or some sort of tussle or whatever. So that's kind of my method for it. I mean, because I'm small, I do get called names. I wouldn't say every day anymore, but I used to get called names every day, even if it's just like a little dig, just calling me small, whatever. It does. When a lot of people have said it to you at once, it kind of does get you down. But you've literally just got to ignore them, because no matter who you are, you're gonna have something wrong with you, and if someone doesn't like you, they're gonna exploit that weakness. Not weakness, but that difference, because people don't like different people. That's kind of where like racism comes from and things like that, and they just don't like it because it's different, or for whatever stupid reason. I mean, there's just so many stupid people around, and you've got to realise that if you call someone a name, you might not be the first person that's called them a name that day. You could be the 10th, 11th, 50th, whatever. So you've just got to reduce yourself from, you just got to just ignore them. That's my way of, that's what I say. And this kid is just annoying, because he just won't go away, but I know he won't go away. But it's not long before I actually leave this school and I can just forget about this kid. And he's also, he will not wait outside my house anymore, because I will just I'll just do things to him, because I have actually grown a little bit now. So he soon finds that he's not actually taller than me anymore, and he's not bigger than me anymore. And you'd be surprised how quickly he stopped, you know, threatening me as soon as I became the same height as him. It was actually comical to see it, the actual fear in his eyes, because he thought that I was going to get like my ultimate revenge for what he did, and by me not doing anything, he's kind of suffering the more. So I think I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get my revenge on him, because there's always a risk that he's just going to start again, and I don't even need that. I've already ended this. I ended it effectively myself, and that was just due to ignoring him. And yeah, so that's my bullying experience. And obviously bullying and then being called names is something different, because bullying is really one person consistently doing it all the time, and I would get called names just by one person a lot of the times in a day, just because I was small. I was probably the smallest in the school for a long time, and I was in no way ashamed of that or whatever. But yeah, it's just these people that just get you down, and you just can't let them get to you, because as soon as you let them get to you, that's when they start. I can't think of the words to say it, but that's when they start thinking they've won, and you don't want to do that. And you want to, by ignoring them, they're just going to feel stupid, aren't they? They're just going to look like an absolute idiot, and there's going to be a day where people will soon realise and soon start backing you up, and it's only a matter of time before they make themselves look like a fool by calling you a name, and then they realise that there's actually someone that actually likes you, or someone that knows you, or a teacher, or someone behind them, and they're just going to make themselves look like a fool. So you've got to really ignore it, and you've just got to pretend like you don't care, and you just got to be yourself, and you've got to love yourself for who you are. I know it's getting a bit cheesy now, I'll probably get off this, but yeah, so that was my experience. Just thought I wanted to share that with you guys. And this Binding of Isaac run, it's near the end, and I picked up a ton of upgrades, and basically I'm on very low health at the moment, and there's no way I can get it, because I would need a health upgrade to get my extra heart slots. And for that to happen, I'd need to get it from like a boss or a treasure room, and the treasure room didn't have anything, and the boss, I'm not sure, I don't think it did have anything. But the run gets very tricky at this point, but I got enough upgrades where I can kind of feel confident that I might be able to do something. I mean, I got my keys, and I did get this upgrade called POLYPHEMUS, which is actually one of the best upgrades in the game. It actually enlarges your arrows tiers, and it makes them do a lot more damage, and they can reach a lot further. And I end up thinking, you know what, this is going to be my last time to get rid of my cash. Might as well see if I get anything good. And I end up sticking with the Liberty... I keep thinking of the Liberty launcher from Team Fortress 2, but I think it's the Liberty cap. Yes, that's what it is. I end up sticking with it. I didn't actually know what it did. I don't know what a lot of these items do, because it's one of the games where you have to just research it on the wiki. And I don't feel like pausing the game every time I find an item. I'll just learn that from you guys commenting or me just finding out what it does, whatever. So I end up sticking with the Liberty cap, and I try and get myself out, and I keep picking up different items, but I do eventually get out. And they've got this useless card. I think it's called a Joker, and I think the Joker is a joke card, because there's a lot of jokes. There's a few cards that send you back to the start and send you back to the and I think the Joker is one of those. And I've also got Brother Bobby, which is like this little familiar, and if you give him money he's got a chance of giving you things, but it was too late in the game to make anything happen. So I pop my spacebar item, which is Book of Shadows, and that gives me a shield for a little while. And as you can see, I actually only have 2 hearts, but Mum is already down to like 3/4 health, and she keeps throwing enemies at me, and it's kind of hard for me to take out with these slow big bubble shots. And I did try to get a bomb in to get that brimstone at the start, but it got pushed away by an enemy, I think. And I was thinking I could do this. I mean, she's only throwing basic enemies at me, and as long as I don't take damage from the enemies, I should be able to dodge the Mum. And then I go down, I keep getting knocked down, and I did think I was going to die. And as long as I can keep my eye on the Mum's foot, I shouldn't lose too much health. And especially when I go down to 1 heart, it gets kind of scary, because it's 1 Mum foot at 1 heart, and you are dead, I believe. So I just focus on the foot, leave these little familiars to be, and I do end up taking some damage here, and wow, half a health, but I did make it out. And that's my first ever beating of the Mum on Binding of Isaac. So I'll let you watch the end credits. Thank you for watching, guys. Remember to submit your comments.
I love you above all else, Isaac's mother repeated to herself. This was the end of the line for Isaac. His mother was far too strong for him. But just as he accepted his fate, God intervened, sending an angel down from above to stop his mother's hand. And just like that, it was over.